Let's try this again, considering there was no sound in the first video. I wanted to make an update that everybody in Tampa is okay, including myself. I mean, I was cleaning up the house earlier when I made the first video, and I just got finished cleaning up now. Still haven't made my bed, because I'm about to go sleep in them in a few hours. But here is the thing. I was mentioning before the sound got cut off by YouTube that, well, when this hurricane first came over to Florida, it was supposedly a Category 3 by the time it would have hit Puerto Rico. Then it ended up being a 5 and a 4 and all that stuff from the reports. Now, I've been trying to keep track of this, and what made me panic was the fact that I couldn't get an accurate read on a hurricane. I did mention this in an update video before the one that was without any sound. And I also mentioned that the mainstream media was basically giving inaccurate information on purpose because Florida was a red state that voted for Trump, apparently. But there was a lot of people in the state who didn't vote for it. There was others who voted for either Hillary or voted democratically independent, but they didn't vote. Not everybody here voted for him, but they still had their biases, and they still half-ass reported on how this hurricane was going to turn out. Specifically, CNN was the worst culprit of them all. But every news station also had that inaccuracy as well. Yes, even all the Fox News stations as well. At this point, that whole reporting of the hurricane was just nothing more than both ideological sides of the media just fighting amongst each other, trying to one-up each other on who has the best coverage of the hurricane. I was trying to tell you that there were cities that actually took some hits. There would probably been more than like 30 people dead in Miami and the most effective areas, especially in the Keys. God knows how many people died in Cuba and Puerto Rico, because that was a Category 5 that hit landfall on both of those areas. Although it weakened to a 3, it came back strong as a 4 and hit the Keys. And everybody in those Keys areas and in Miami and Orlando and all of those counties, well, in all the cities and also the counties that they were in, they got very much affected the most. Especially the people in Daytona. They got people just left Dayton, Ohio, not Dayton, I'm in Daytona, Florida, and not got hurt. I mean, there were some swift evacuations. At least the mayor was on point when he was trying to make sure that everybody was safe. I managed to evacuate it to a friend's house on higher ground. Now, the thing that irks me is I was panicking because, again, as I mentioned in the update video before, the one that got silenced by YouTube, I was afraid because 12 years ago, the confusion in the news happened again during Hurricane Katrina. The difference was, unlike before when the news were fighting over ratings and like the Democratic news stations are all paid for by George Soros, the Democratic news stations, or should I say both Republican and Democratic news stations in Louisiana, was actually paid for by C. Ray Nagin to tell everybody at the last minute. They didn't give anybody time to prepare. They just basically told everybody 2 days before the hurricane hit to evacuate, giving people not that much time to get their stuff and go. And people who were stuck there were just stuck there. I also think I mentioned in the video that the National Guard was supposed to actually show up and make sure everything was okay and there wasn't any looters. When they found out it was a Hurricane 1, they packed their things up and left Tampa immediately and went to other places where they were needed the most. Unlike with Galveston and also with Corpus Christi, Houston, and all the other areas that were affected by hurricanes, especially Houston, Galveston, and Corpus Christi, because that's like the third time they got hit. The first time was, I think, with Hurricane Katrina and also Hurricane Ivan, who actually made the block and also hit parts of Texas as well. So that wasn't their first rodeo, but Galveston did get hit the worst, and they did have National Guard to make sure that people were in line, not stealing things. Same thing in New Orleans and all the other cities where looting actually happened, and they just went out and started killing looters. Because the looters ended up getting out of control to the point where the looters start turning into rapists. And I never want to relive that calamity again. This is why I was so nervous. My sister's just telling me to calm down. I really couldn't because I was having flashbacks 12 years ago. And among those things, at least this time during this hurricane, there was food and water. We didn't have to worry about living off of MREs and canned food. We had prepared for this hurricane and cooked all the food before they turned off the lights. But thankfully the lights actually didn't turn off this time around. The lights didn't turn off in here, were in my original house, and the only damage that was actually sustained in my house was damage to the window this time, and part probably gone and have to be repaired by the landlord again for the fourth time. This time I hope he brings ceiling tiles, because those are ruined too. But it was just the same way in my last house, where a tree actually nicked the side of the roof. And the water just backed up the backup sewage system that was in my old house. I'm just telling you how I feel, because the news could have done a lot better to try to prevent catastrophes, but they have been so busy being competitive towards each other. They're so busy worrying about the President of the United States. I mean, he's only there for 4 years. You don't have to vote for him again if you don't want to. They're all worried about all this stuff. And yet, at the end of the day, some of these news stations are also located here in Tampa and other parts of Florida. If they're a failure at reporting the news and it hits them, no big millionaire backer is going to come after them and help them. They'll just be SOL. Just like all the news stations that got hit were back in Katrina and Rita. I'm okay. I'm just had to get a few things off my chest, and also for YouTube to silence my video. That was cold-blooded of you. And I'm going to make sure before I upload this that there is actually sound, so you can hear everything that I have to say. Plain and simple, the media needs to get their heads out of their asses. It doesn't matter about left, doesn't matter about right, doesn't matter about Democrats, Republicans, doesn't matter about conservatives or liberal anymore. It never did. It only evolved that way because both sides of the media are bought by someone. They're just playing circus and playing sides for people. And it's coming to the point where even during a natural disaster, they're trying to play sides and get the people against each other. Already in a 2 weeks' time, there have been hurricanes that has devastated the South. It is time for the media to stop. And to make things worse, you try to find people who actually do have insight and information on at least the most popular network, YouTube. You have Susan Wojcicki here teaming up with the ADL to blacklist people, and also getting encouragement from the Wall Street Journal to blacklist people. It kind of sucks that when we're trying to rely on some sort of source of information, that we have to actually go elsewhere to get it. And we have news media journalists that's supposed to at least tell us what's going on. Oh, sorry about that. That's my cat in the background. I apologize. But I will say this to all of you journalists out there. I know this video may not be watched, but if it does, and I hope it gets shared, I want to make sure that you hear this. It is time. Doesn't matter what network you are. It does not matter what your agenda is. It doesn't matter what your political party is. It is time to stop. The truth, the unsolicited, the uncensored, the untampered with, yes, I'm talking about you, CNN, the actual unadulterated truth matters more than any political agenda. People's lives matter on this subject. And it's high time that the media stop being dicks to their customers. That's why everybody looks to YouTube to try to at least get some sort of solace, to at least get some sort of information. If push comes to shove and YouTube starts silencing that information like they just did my video, eventually I'll start making channels elsewhere. I mean, I might get the same amount of traffic here, like barely watch videos, or they might have a blacklist over there too. I'm not sure. But one thing is perfectly clear. It is time for the media to stop being idiots. It is time for Susan Wojcicki to stop being an idiot. Literally. Time for her to stop being an idiot. Because political agendas just does not matter anymore. And it is time for everyone here to stop worrying about politics. Because at this point, there's going to come another storm or another disaster or some sort of tragedy that is going to happen. That is not staged by George Soros this time. It's going to happen, and we'll be so against each other that we don't see it until it actually does. It's time to stop now. I just had to get that off of my chest. But for the most part, I will continue on with some of the playthroughs I have planned throughout the week. I'm just going to need some time because I have to go to work tomorrow. But I will continue on with the playthroughs later on in the week. So expect something on Wednesday at least. If not Tuesday night. So, with that said, this time I hope they're sound. I'm RVMan985. See you guys next time.